Welcome to another episode of 30 Minutes in the New Testament. 30 Minutes in the New Testament is a 1517 podcast network podcast. You can go to 1517.org/podcast and check out all the other podcasts that are living over there. And while you're over there, make sure you check out everything else that 1517 is doing. All the events, the articles, the academies, the books, all the things that you can do over there. Take advantage of it all, and then also go over to the donate link. That's what you want to do. It's in the right-hand corner. And support all that work. You see, just peruse it all, see how great it is, and then say, let me support this. And you can become a reoccurring donor right there on the site. And we very much appreciate those of you who do that. We are in Matthew 27. We ended at verse 51. And we got through sort of the death of Jesus here. So Jesus has been mocked, shamed, ridiculed, crucified. We ended with him giving up his spirit. This is the Jesus cried out with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit to God. And that is where we ended. You know that if you've read the book, you know that this is not the end. The resurrection is coming. But even just sort of the death of Christ has real implications. I mean, you don't have to wait for the resurrection for some things to start happening.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, immediately we read in verse 51, and behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Now, just in case you haven't ever visualized what the curtain looks like, it's massive. I mean, it was 60 feet tall and 30 feet wide. And, of course, the curtain was there to separate the most holy place from the holy place in the temple. The only one allowed to go behind the curtain was the high priest on one day of the year. And why? Well, it was to protect sinners from the holy presence of God, because sinners could not come into the presence of a holy God without significant consequences. And so the symbolism here is kind of twofold. On the one hand, we are being shown that God is breaking down the barriers that have kept sinners from him on account of what Jesus has accomplished at the cross. But it also alludes to the fact that this kingdom is going to be wider than just temple Judaism, that this kingdom is going to apply to people outside of the temple. And so there's a lot packed into the tearing of this curtain.
I mean, a big thing here, too, is just that if you ever wondered, and you can go to, Galatians or go to Hebrews and read about this. If you wonder if God is interested in anything being sacrificed ever again, this tells you no.
That's right.
Like this system is over. Like there's not another lamb need not be sacrificed. Like this is done.
Yeah, and Hebrews makes it very explicit, once for all.
Yeah, this is it, man. Like the temple at this point, what you have happening here, and by the way, man, if you're in the temple at that point, if you're one of these chief priests or something, I don't know, I mean, you want to talk about put the fear of God in you. You know what's going on, and then this happens. This is God saying that this temple going forward serves no purpose whatsoever.
Yeah. It's a different religion now if you keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's no longer right. Judaism as it was practiced with the sacrifices and with the priests, and it's something else. And it should go away, to be honest with you, and be replaced with what becomes to be called Christianity. That's the whole intention here. I mean, the big significance to the temple being torn in two is that Dan said is there's no more sacrifice. Which means there's no more priests. Because the function of a priest is to kill an animal in a sort of liturgical, holy way for the propitiation of the sins. But if Jesus is the final propitiation, if he's the final sacrifice, then you're tearing down that barrier where only the holiest can come see God, because you don't need a high priest anymore because he is the great high priest.
That's right. Yeah, he is the mediator between God and man. Mm-hmm.
It's not even just that he's the final sacrifice. He's the fulfillment of every sacrifice that took place before that. I mean, every lamb that was slaughtered
is the sacrifice that gives meaning to all the other ones.
Yeah,
that's right.
I mean, every lamb that was ever slain on an altar in the temple is all just pointing to this thing, and this thing has now happened. And so I say this sometimes, like if people ask if I want to go to like a Passover Seder, which of course I don't. And the reason I don't is the same reason I wouldn't go sacrifice a lamb in a temple somewhere. The same reason that I wouldn't go to my wedding rehearsal after I was married. That would be crazy, right? Where, hey, you want to do?
That's a
hey,
good one.
What do you think? You want to go do the wedding rehearsal again?
Like,
No,
that was
we
awful.
We did.
I don't want to do that
like,
again.
we did the marriage. We're not doing the rehearsal anymore. That's what this is. I mean, that was all just sort of pointing towards the thing that was to happen, and now the thing has happened. So there is no need to go back and do the practice runs again.
Yeah, so we can see right out of the gate here in verse 51 the spiritual consequences of what's just happened on account of the death of Christ. But there also are these very practical, like real world implications on the ground too, because we read, and the earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. When the centurion and those who were with him keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were filled with awe and said, "Truly this was the Son of God." And you could translate that word awe also dread.
Yeah. Fear.
I mean, either one would fit. And the idea is they've recognized, oh no, what have we done?
Yeah, this wasn't like this isn't a gospel moment for them. Like a lot of times when you hear someone profess that Jesus is the Son of God, this is a
We've killed the Son of God.
we have messed up big time here.
Yeah.
That's what this is. I got to tell you guys, the part of this where dead people pop out and start walking around.
Yeah. Matthew's the only one that reports this.
Yeah, and I don't have a lot to say about it because I heard Scott, as you were reading it, say so weird, which is exactly my response.
Besides the idea, the symbolic idea that he's defeated death by his death.
Sure.
You know, as far as as far as how this all looked, that's a mystery.
Yeah. But I do think that that's right. I mean, the symbolism I think is kind of obvious, which is that God has seen fit in that moment to say the wages of sin, which is death, have been paid. So that has been taken upon Christ, and so that wage, at the very least, is all been put into Christ. He has taken on the sin of the world in that way.
Yeah, and there is some allusion to that because initially we read the tombs also were open, but then it says that they didn't actually come out of the tombs and start walking around and appearing to many until after the resurrection.
Well, Jesus does allude to this too. I just looked it up because I don't have the kind of chapter and verse memory that you guys do. But John 5, Jesus says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, an hour is coming and is now here when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live." You have, it's weird. It's not surprising though, that on the conquering of death, that in this time of great miracles happening kind of one right after the other here, that some miraculous events occur to lay the foundation and to the belief in people's head that Jesus' death and resurrection is going to have implications regarding your death and your resurrection. And they go and they testify. It's just weird. Like if you were one of the people sitting there and all of a sudden some dead dude walked out of a tomb and started testifying about Jesus, you'd be like,
I do.
What's going on?
We should probably note too that I think this passage is one of the reasons that the Eastern Orthodox tend to view Christ going to hell during, after his death, as him bringing up all those who have been held in death. That they
rather
have
than
sort
victorious
of this
proclamation.
Yeah. They will point to a passage like this and say that's the fulfillment of that. That's why Jesus went there to storm the gates, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's not without warrant, that particular perspective.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that before on this podcast. So verse 35, it says, "There were also many women there, looking on from a distance, who had followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, among whom were Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee." Now again, just to note, if you're trying to sell this story about a death and resurrection, this is not the kind of thing that you want to highlight back then. And we've talked about this in other contexts before, but we know that the testimony of women was not seen as reliable compared to the testimony of men. So if you wanted to sell this, you were making this up, you just wouldn't include this detail. You just wouldn't, and frankly, you wouldn't include the detail of who first discovers the empty tomb. But of course, they include it because it's history.
Yeah. Not only that, I think that he includes it because you can name really specific names doing this.
That's right.
So maybe it's not, the best testimony in their time, but it's a good testimony. And as time goes by, it's an even better testimony, year after year. I think
also every woman seems to be named Mary of some sort.
Yeah. He collected Marys among himself.
Yes.
Mary Magdalene, we know that. Mary, the mother of James and Joseph. That's Jesus' mother, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I thought that was because those were his brothers, I thought.
I feel like that Matthew would not highlight the fact that she's the mother of someone else at this moment, that he would be pretty clear that this is the mother of Jesus.
Interesting. Okay. Well, and then is she called later that she's called the other Mary later, and then the mother of James and John, the sons of thunder, right? She just seems to be always around because it was, I don't know how, 6 chapters ago, she's one of the ones that comes up and asks about where her boys are going to be in the kingdom. So she seems to be hanging around quite a bit, and she's still there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there definitely is. It's worth noting that you have these mothers that are seem to be pretty devout believers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're around a lot, and
Luke tells us that a number of them fund Jesus' ministry.
Yeah, and there's they do a lot of ministry as far as ministering. That can mean a lot of different things, but that they are serving the Jesus and the disciples in some way, which is interesting at the very least. That they are noted over and over again.
Yeah. So verse 57 says, when it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who also was a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. And Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen shroud and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the entrance of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the tomb.
Yeah, these Marys are hanging around, man.
Mm-hmm.
They are the disciples have all they've all bailed. They're out, but these women are gonna.
You get the sense that the Marys here don't want to believe that he really is dead,
or that he's going to stay dead. Maybe they heard the message more clearly than the disciples. They also they're going to be the ones that are going to have the obligation to prepare the body and stuff too, right? So,
well, and this is going to be anecdotal, but we'll see if you guys agree. But I'll tell you what, I've known a lot of moms with some enviable, simple faith. And I think you see some of that here. This is what my mom would be doing. I'd probably be overanalyzing the whole thing and all this stuff. And she'd be
cowering in an upper room with Peter.
Yeah, for sure. And she would just be like, he said what he said.
And you're like, what?
That would be,
he's dead.
Yes, my mom would be an example of that mom.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Scott? There's some women out there that have and I'm not saying it, there's women that are I'm sure are not this, but I just know a lot of women and a lot of mothers who, having, and that's why I use the word enviable. The belief seems like it comes so easy.
Yeah.
The clinging is easy, and I'm actually a little jealous of it at times.
Oh, I'm too. I'm often jealous of my wife's faith. She is kind of like what he said. I'm like, yeah, I know, but don't you try to figure out how it works?
Your wife would probably be there. She'd be like, well, we're getting him ready to rise again. You'd be like, we'd be up there in the upper room being like, man, I don't know, you look pretty dead.
I always, when I do apologetics classes, or when I used to do a lot of them, one of the things I always point out is that this is a very good thing to have in the text for Christians, because this is like hey, you want to go check it out. I mean, when you're getting into this much detail about where Jesus is buried, right? There's a man from Arimathea named Joseph who was one of the disciples. Okay, I can go try to track this guy down. He's Joseph from Arimathea, and he's with one of the disciples that were in Jerusalem at the time of Jesus' death. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. You could even go ask Pilate's toadies who this guy was. And then Joseph took the body, wrapped it in clean linen, laid it in his own new tomb. So you just got to go to like whoever's keeping the records on who owns what tombs and be like, where is this? And all that. I mean, this is like giving an address, like if you want to see that he was dead or see that his body's not there anymore, go check it out. Here's the address. This is just very unique within religious literature. Unique details to put in there, verifiable details to put in there regarding an essential miracle or the essential miracle to the whole system that you're now promoting as true. So this whole
and genuinely, truly unique,
truly
amongst
unique.
religious
You don't find
literature.
this kind of thing in any other religious literature, especially not regarding miracles, especially not regarding like the primary miracle. As an example of this, no one can track down, where the plates that Joseph Smith, said he found were, and it's not specifically detailed. That type of this kind of detail is not given. If you're trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes, this is the kind of detail that you would absolutely leave out, because you might get somebody to go check it out, right? You might.
Yeah.
Might get somebody to go talk to these women who are now named. You might get somebody to go talk to Joseph of Arimathea and say, "Did you actually lay it in the tomb?" Yeah.
You might even go around to some guards and say, "Hey, which of the guys were there when Jesus died? Did that, was there really an earthquake?
Yeah.
You could figure this out."
Yeah, you could probably find out who these guards were who eventually said, "Truly, this was the Son of God." Who were the centurion that was there keeping watch over Jesus? Who was that? Who was on duty that day? I mean, all of these things are details that if you're just trying to make up a story, you would absolutely leave out. And you can even go back to like, verse 46, where Jesus is crying out against God, my God, why have you forsaken me?" You wouldn't say that if you were creating like a purely hero story.
That's right.
No.
Yeah.
No, and it's not even just a matter of leaving them out. If you're making it up, you wouldn't invent them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, so it's not like you would be omitting stuff that's true. Like, this is a step further of unnecessary things where like I'm concocting a story here. Well, and I'm not going to invent details that could prove this is just a story that I'm making up.
Yeah.
This was one of the things that persuaded C.S. Lewis that this was actual reportage as opposed to myth, because in ancient writing, you just don't have this kind of modern attempt to make fiction seem like it's real.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is to his, too akin to history.
Yeah.
To call it myth, it's where people like Jordan Peterson get it wrong too, where it's like this is just a great myth about a moral teacher. Like, this is not written like myth. Sorry.
No.
Too many names.
Oh. And then also, you also have this as an obvious fulfillment of what Isaiah will say will happen to the Messiah. So, like, laid with the rich man and all this stuff.
By the way, since we got time, funny little anecdote. I think it's at the end of Ben-Hur.
Yeah.
John Wayne plays
the
guard, the centurion.
It's not John Wayne. It's not Charlton Heston either. Douglas?
No, John Wayne, at least in one of these movies, and I'm not sure which one. I might have the movie wrong, but he plays the centurion, and everyone else in the movie, of course, is trying to have like an accurate accent for the time, or they're all just British, or whatever. But John Wayne is John Wayne, and his line, the way he delivers the line, is hilarious because he sounds exactly like John Wayne. Truly, this was the Son of God. He doesn't even attempt to try and do an accent. It's pretty hilarious. So we pick it up at verse 62. The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, Sir, we remember how that impostor said while he was still alive, after 3 days I will rise. Therefore, order the tomb to be made secure until the third day, lest his disciples go and steal him away and tell the people he is risen from the dead, and the last fraud will be worse than the first. Pilate said to them, you have a guard of soldiers. Go make it as secure as you can. So they went and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone and setting a guard.
These dudes believe he's going to rise from the dead.
They do.
They believe it more than the disciples believe it.
They do.
Also, can you tell that Pilate's done with these guys?
Oh yeah, man. He's had it.
So dismissive of
He's
them.
had it.
Like,
Yeah.
He's like, hey, order
He's
it to
like,
be
listen,
secure.
my wife is still having bad dreams. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, if this guy rises from the dead, I'm not going to be keeping him in there. You have soldiers, right? Yeah, go do that. Like,
Yeah.
but I'm not. When I washed my hands, like I meant it. Like I'm done.
Yeah.
Also, what is the? I guess I kind of get it, but like, what is the logic behind them thinking that this is a good argument? That like the disciples will go and steal him away and tell the people he has risen from the dead. Well, what benefit does that give
If
to
he
the
doesn't
disciples?
start appearing places, what good is it? He's just his body's just disappeared.
Yeah.
Like, these guys believe it, and they think somehow they can keep like a risen Jesus in the tomb by putting a wax seal on the door or something like that.
You know, like the argument that some people will make, that this exact argument that like, well, one of the explanations for what could have happened is the disciples could have stole the body. Like you'll hear opponents of Christianity still say that. Unless Matthew's playing some real 4D chess, it'd be weird to include your strategy
in
the text.
story.
Oh yeah.
And again, his body just disappearing wouldn't have been proof of anything. The fact that he starts walking around and testifying to people that he is who he is, says he is, and that he starts preaching to them again.
At times to over 500 at one moment.
Yeah. I mean, Paul names some of the people again, like you get more names.
Yeah.
Dude, and
In Romans chapter 15.
How about these chief priests and Pharisees, though? Sir, remember how that imposter...
1 Corinthians, sorry.
Like, they just go up and, like, this guy... they've beaten this guy, mocked him, scourged him, crucified him. All they can say is, this imposter. Like, the devil is up in these guys.
Because it's all about their authority being undermined by him.
He said while he was still alive, but we had him killed. After 3 days, I will rise.
They knew all of his teachings.
Yeah, dude, the condemnation is thick on this.
I don't know, man.
It's a lot. And
It's a lot.
Yeah, and one thing that these people have figured out is that, and they're right, that this guy rising from the dead is way worse for them than him having never been crucified.
Yes.
You're not wrong about that.
You're not wrong about that. No.
You've got that figured out.
If you don't think this system is already destroyed, just wait until he starts testifying as a risen Lord and Savior. It's going to really go. It's going to go fast.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's that. I mean, I think they have there's a real fear here. And I think you're right, Scott. I don't think that fear is that the disciples are going to sneak away his body. I think it's that they're like, hey, put some guards there. If this guy rises from the dead, kill him again.
Yeah.
Or do something. Like,
Yeah.
we can't allow it to happen.
Stop him.
This has got to be stopped. Like somehow this has got to be stopped. They believe it. These guys believe it.
Or at the very least, they believe it's possible. Like at the very least, I mean, dude, these are the same guys that know, like they don't, not that they believe, they know that this man raised Lazarus from the dead.
Yeah, they've seen his miracles.
They know he did it. And after he did it, they said, what? We have to kill both these guys. Like, we have to kill Lazarus and kill Jesus. Like, and so it's not as if they don't know for certain, again, not because they heard it or whatever, they know that this man has in fact raised at least somebody from the dead before. So like this is giving you some pause.
In all the stories of his teachings and miracles, you have several groups of people that seem to always be there, right? The disciples, the women, the particular hearers in whatever town they're in, and then these guys. They're
Yeah,
always there.
the Pharisees are hanging out on the outside, right?
Always there. They not only hear everything he says, they see everything that he does. And they react to the things that he says and does, by trying to kill him, by trying to capture him, by saying both these guys have to die. I mean, time and time again, they've seen everything. They are denying, that's why, even as he tells his little parable, if you just send them back from the dead, then my brothers will believe. And he's like, no, they won't. No, they won't. He knows that they're at whatever point they're so invested in this system that has spent 27 chapters now tearing down, that his resurrection, they know that this will be it. This will be it. And
you're not going to be able to say it's by the power of the devil that he wrote. That one's not going to work.
It's not going to work anymore. And so they have to do whatever. They have to be so terrified. I mean, the disciples are up in a room cowering, and as Jim said, holding the door in shift so much that they didn't even have time for a bathroom break. They needed a bucket. But these guys are just as scared. They're just as scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they can see the consequences. It's very clear to them.
Well, I mean, I would also be nervous if someone I killed rose from the dead.
Yeah.
Well, and then
there's some implications of that, right?
And then when we're done with this, I think you guys are going into Acts next with somebody else. I mean, you're gonna see how quickly everything is overturned. The number of converts that come to Christianity every day by the proclamation of the kingdom of God in Christ and the work of the Holy Spirit, just thousands of converts come time after time after time after time. It's over. And then just follow the history as far as like what actually becomes the dominant religion belief in the world.
Yeah, well, you can think about it
very
too.
quickly.
And very quickly.
Like these guys know that Easter would be a very big deal if it becomes a thing. Now, so maybe your church does or doesn't do a thing called Good Friday, which we've talked about, the death of Christ, and of course, the death of Christ is a big deal. We make a big deal out of that. But they know that Easter is a much bigger deal than Good Friday if that comes to happen.
Yeah. Yes.
They're okay with a Good Friday. They'd be like, we can maybe survive a Good Friday. We might be like Easter. We're toast. Like if Easter comes, this game is over.
Yeah, I mean, you end up. This has been the primary movement of the church for over 2,000 years. You don't end up doing the tenebrae, the darkness service week after week, but for weeks on end after Easter, the service starts and ends with "He is risen indeed," because it is the crux point of all of Christianity. His death certainly is in there, but his resurrection is the key. Lots of people
Apostle
die.
Paul makes it very clear in 1 Corinthians 15, if Christ is not raised, you are still in your sins. Life is futile. Might as well eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die.
Yep.
Yeah. The resurrection is where you know that Christ is victorious over all things.
Yep.
And,
that's right.
And if you're
And that's what we'll get to next week.
Yeah, we are going to get to that the next episode as we enter the final chapter of Matthew. Hopefully you guys will join us. I'll see you guys then.
Sounds good.